Breaking news! Big moves behind the scenes are reshaping the Philadelphia Eagles draft strategy. And folks, it feels like a calculated move straight out of the old Howie Roseman playbook. With the NFL draft less than 3 weeks away, the buzz around the NovaCare complex isn't just about who the Eagles might draft. It's about whether they'll pick in the first round. This could be deja vu all over again. A repeat of 2018, when the Birds traded away the 32nd pick, letting the Ravens take Lamar Jackson while Philly accumulated picks that turned into a core of solid starters. This year, all signs point to something similar, and I'm going to give you all the details right now. Before you go any further, make sure you've hit the like button if you trust Howie's decisions for the Eagles' future. If possible, comment something like this: "Go Eagles!" And Howie we trust. Howie has been really effective every month, and that makes us believe we're going to make it to another Super Bowl. Of the 15 or 16 top 30 pre-draft visits the Eagles have had, only one player, Maxwell Hairston, appears in Mel Kiper's first-round mock draft. That's telling. No visits with first-round prospects like Malachi Starks or Walter Nolan? That's no accident. It seems like the front office is laser-focused on second- and third-round talent, and that screams a trade out of 32 scenario. Now, what's really cooking here is that this entire strategy might be based on one massive gamble, that quarterbacks rise up the draft board and push other elite players down. And guess what? That might just happen. Alabama's Jalen Milroe is planning to attend the first night of the draft, which is odd because no mock has him going in the first round. But if he knows something we don't, or if teams are desperate enough in this historically thin quarterback class, we might see a rush on QBs late in round one. If 4 quarterbacks go early, like Milroe, Jackson Dart, Shedeur Sanders, and Cam Ward, it could be the perfect storm for the Eagles. That would leave Howie Roseman with some juicy options sitting on the board at 32, which he could either pick from or leverage into multiple high-value selections just like he did in 2018. And speaking of quarterbacks, this weekend brought a surprise twist in Philly's backup QB situation. Reports emerged that the Eagles made a run at Patriots backup Joe Milton, only to lose out to Dallas. That made some heads turn. Why go after another mobile backup after trading for Dorian Thompson-Robinson just weeks ago? The answer might lie with Tanner McKee. According to the Philadelphia Times, other teams are sniffing around McKee after his strong late-season play. If Philly's trying to flip him for better draft capital and replace him with a Hurts-style QB like Milton, that makes sense. Though the Times isn't the most credible source, where there's smoke, there's usually fire. This could mean the Eagles are hunting for a true Jalen Hurts clone to back him up, which is not a slight on McKee, it's just a matter of fit. If Hurts goes down, the idea is to have someone who can step in and keep the offensive system intact. DTR fits that bill. Joe Milton did too. Now that Milton's in Dallas, maybe the McKee trade talks cool off, but it's one more storyline to watch heading into draft weekend. Then there's the hard knocks angle. Thanks to a rule change, the Eagles, who were previously exempt, can now be forced to participate in the HBO series. Philly is one of only 7 teams never featured, and with their star-studded roster, the league might just decide this is the year. DeVonta Smith even joked that Philly is a movie and would make for wild TV. Whether the team wants that kind of spotlight during training camp is another story, but as fans, it'd be must-watch content. Meanwhile, a small but telling development in the tight end market could have ripple effects in Philly. The Cardinals just made Trey McBride the highest-paid tight end in the NFL with a 4-year, $76 million extension. That deal indirectly puts pressure on the Eagles when it comes to Dallas Goedert. While McBride's younger and statistically more productive of late, Goddard still has a legitimate case to be in the top 5 pay tier for tight ends. The question is whether the Eagles will want to pay that or move him. It's not a hot trade rumor yet, but it's definitely something to keep tabs on. One of the weekend's best behind-the-scenes stories came courtesy of Vic Fangio, who gave fans a rare look at the rise of Zach Bond. Once a special teams afterthought, Bond became one of the league's top inside linebackers after Fangio noticed something subtle in his film, his ability to shift like a stacked linebacker in motion. That tiny detail sparked a position change that paid off big time for Bond and the Eagles. Fangio shared how Bond initially resisted the switch, like most pass rushers do, wanting to stay on the edge and chase sacks. But after some convincing and a little patience, Bond bought in. Now, he's got a big contract and a starting spot to show for it. That's the kind of development story you love to hear about, a guy making the leap not because of hype, but because someone saw something others missed. So here we are, with less than 3 weeks until the draft, and it feels like everything is still up in the air. Will the Eagles stick at 32 or slide back for more picks? Will another quarterback frenzy help Philly land a blue-chip player without even trying? Will Tanner McKee be on the roster in May? And will the Birds finally end up on Hard Knocks? That's where you come in, Eagles Nation. What do you think is going on behind the scenes? Would you trade back like Howie did in 2018? Or are you eyeing a particular player at 32? Would you be cool with the team showing up on Hard Knocks? And what should Philly do about Dallas Goedert? Extend him or explore a trade? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We're just getting started. And speaking of getting started, let's talk about one of the most overlooked but potentially game-changing factors in all of this, how the Eagles are stacking their draft board based not just on talent, but on value and positional fit. When you look at who they've brought in for pre-draft visits, guys like Texas A&M edge rusher Nick Scourton and cornerback Trey Amos, it tells you everything you need to know about where Howie Roseman's head is at. These aren't top-of-the-board splash names, but they're classic Eagles-style targets, physically gifted, smart, high-upside prospects who can be molded into long-term starters, maybe even stars, with the right development. Let's not forget, this front office doesn't draft for this season alone. They're always 2 or 3 steps ahead. Take Scourton, for example. He saw a drop in production last year after transferring, but the talent is undeniable. And Trey Amos? He's got the kind of speed and athleticism that could seriously push for a starting job, especially with questions still lingering around Khalil Ringo. These are the kinds of players who could be key depth in year 1 and major contributors by year 2. And that strategy, targeting high upside guys outside round 1, fits perfectly if you're planning to trade out of 32 and load up on day 2 ammo. Remember, the Eagles have 10 to 12 more top 30 visits available, and they could still bring in big-name talent. But if they don't, that's not a red flag. It's a chess move. And the last time Howie played this game in 2018, the return was Dallas Goedert, Avonte Maddox, Josh Sweat, Jordan Mailata, foundational players. That's the kind of class Philly's aiming to replicate, especially after an offseason of key veteran departures. A strong draft doesn't just patch holes, it sets you up for sustained success. Now, zooming out a bit, let's not overlook the unique opportunity the Eagles have with Vic Fangio leading the defense. His impact on Zach Bond wasn't a one-off feel-good story. It was a blueprint. Fangio saw something no one else did, Bond's natural linebacker instincts hidden in plain sight, and turned him into a legitimate star. With that kind of eye for talent and scheme fit, Fangio is going to be huge when it comes to integrating this incoming rookie class, especially those mid-round guys who need a little polish. And this draft is full of that kind of talent, players with tools but lacking refinement. Perfect for a coach like Vic. And while we're talking about development, don't forget what this coaching staff did with Jordan Mailata. That was a complete shot in the dark that turned into one of the best left tackles in the league. If you're a young player, why wouldn't you want to come to Philly? This team builds players. They don't just use them up and move on. That culture, that approach, is why the Eagles are always in the mix, even when they're reloading instead of rebuilding. On the offensive side, the Goedert situation might end up being a financial chess match as well. He's not on the decline by any stretch, but McBride's new deal just completely reset the market. If you're Goedert's agent, you're going to point at that $76 million and say, my guy's just as valuable. If you're Howie, you're weighing the cap hit against production and age. And if you're a fan, you're probably wondering if we're about to see another Zach Ertz type situation unfold, where an emotional favorite ends up moved because of numbers, not performance. Go Eagles!